Hi everybody, Alarm Doctor here again. Today's video is on punching register adjustments. Now, these adjustments should work for most manufactured punching registers. Harrington Seeburg, LW Bills, B&B Engineering. They're all basically the same. Now there is one difference in the fact that I do not have any half-inch registers here. And the reason that I don't is a half-inch register is a completely different machine. Adjustments are different, and so that will be covered in another video. So the first thing I wanted to show you here was I have three punching registers. These are 1-inch registers. The first one is a circle punch register. The second one is an earlier arrow punch register, and the third one is one of the last style of registers that was manufactured by the original Gamewell company. Now, what I wanted to show you here on the bottom was a couple of things. First off is the armature tension. Now, right here we have the armature, and as you can see, we have a spring, a cord, and it is wrapped around this long bar right here. Now, these are adjustable from the outside. You can put a screwdriver in right here, or on the other side there's a slotted screw, and you can turn this bar and it will adjust the tension on your armature. Now, if you happen to have one of these older registers that has this adjustment bar here, and your spring is stretched all the way to the bar, that is not correct. There should be a spring and a cord here. If it's stretched to the point that it's all the way here, you have no adjustment left, number one. So what you need to do is clip that spring and get yourself some heavy cord and get yourself some adjustment here. Alright, on this register here, you can see the spring is stretched all the way. However, we have a different style adjustment screw. This one you have to adjust from underneath, and what it does is, of course, it changes the tension against your armature right here. And the third one is the same way. This is a little bit later one. The materials are different metal used in the mechanism itself, but the idea is the same. Now, why do we have an adjustment on this? Well, the biggest reason is depending on what size circuit that these registers are on, and when I say size, I'm talking about the actual voltage that it takes to maintain 100 mils. It may take a little bit more spring tension for this armature to overcome the magnetism when the circuit opens up. And the reason I bring this up is, you will have a little bit of a different tension adjustment depending on how strong the pull is on your circuit. The other reason I bring this up is this. If you look at this older register and this one also, you'll notice that the coil cores are iron. If you look at this newer register, the coil cores are some type of alloy or aluminum. The reason I bring that up is the fact that over time, over years of service, these coils, the cores, will build up residual magnetism. So, over years of service, it may take more spring tension here to overcome the residual magnetism that's built up inside of these coils. So if you have your display set up and you just happen to notice as you're looking at it that the register just seems to be a little bit behind when this current circuit opens up, more than likely it's a slow dropout here because of residual magnetism. So what you end up having to do is put more tension on this spring so that it can overcome the magnetism in this coil quicker. So that's the adjustment that you have on the bottom. And so once we get finished with that, now that we're finished with that, we'll flip these registers over, and I'll show you the adjustments that we have on the top side. Okay, what we have here, we're now looking at the front of the register. And the main thing I wanted to point out here was how to adjust the register speed. When I say speed, that means the speed that the paper actually goes through the register. And what we have here is we see that there is a timing fan, and on this particular older register there are 2 weights. Now this will cause this register to run really slow. And the way to speed it up, of course, would be first off to take one of the weights off. The second thing you could do is once you took one of the weights off, if that's not fast enough, then you can slide this weight up towards the center. The closer the weight is to the center of the pivot, the faster it will run. You can also take the weights clear off. And if that's still not fast enough, you can cut the fan. Now, the reason for this timing here is the distance between punches. So, my opinion, the punches should be an inch or less apart for each stroke of each digit. Now, naturally, there's going to be a bigger space between digits. But the reason you do that is if you have a box that's timed really slow and a register that runs really fast, it's going to go through a boatload of paper before you get the 4 rounds recorded punched on the paper. Vice versa, if you have a really fast box and a really slow register, you could end up with a big slot punched in your paper and not be able to read it all. So there's no real set way to do this or set formula. You have to play with it a little bit and try to get your punches between or less than an inch apart. Now there is one other adjustment on the front of the older registers, and that is right here. There is a tension adjustment on the pinch roller that drives the paper. Now in later registers, that adjustment is gone. All you have is a spring that's stretched and causes constant pressure on the pinch roller. Okay, now we have a couple of adjustments on the tops of the registers. The first one and the most important one I wanted to show you was this one right here. This is a run out adjustment, and what that determines is how far the paper comes out of the end of the register before it stops. Now this as you can see, this will screw in and out, and it has a jam nut to hold it in place once you get it set where you want. And how this works is this particular adjustment here determines how far this lever comes across before it runs across the screw like this and stops the register. So that's how that works. A quick thing to check for on registers, a lot of guys tell me that their registers just continue to run and run and run. A lot of times what happens is there is a small stop pin on the end of this lever, and there is also a small one on this screw gear right here. A lot of times they'll either fall out or they'll break off, and that'll cause the register to just run and run and run. Another thing to check for real quick is there should be a spring between this hook and this pin over here. A lot of times those are missing, and what happens is when the register punches, that spring pulls this lever over. If that spring's not there, that lever's not going to pull over. It's just going to sit there, and you're going to have problems. Now the other thing, look at this newer register. As you can see, the spring is there, but this one has timestamp contacts. Now, how to adjust timestamp contacts is there's a set screw right here, and you have some room to slide this contact point set one way or the other, and that is another what I would call by feel adjustment. You have to play with that and do 2 things. First, make sure that the timestamp doesn't punch before the register is done punching its last digit of the last number of the fourth round of a box. So, and that will also be determined by the speed of the register. So again, you have to play with it, slide it back and forth until you get it so that it punches where you want it to, and that's it for that adjustment. There are two other small things I wanted to point out on these registers. This later punching register, a lot of times you have to check and make sure that this spring right here is in position. The register will not run correctly if that spring is broke or if it's missing. The other thing I wanted to point out was a lot of times you'll have your register and it will run and it will, what I would call, lope in speed. It will run at a certain speed, slow down, run at a certain speed, slow down. And if this is happening at a constant pace, most likely what is wrong is this drive shaft right here that drives the paper reel is bent. And what's happening is this reel is going up and down slightly, up and down slightly. And when it goes up and pushes against the pinch roller, it's going to slow the register down. So basically what you have to do is manhandle that a little bit and try to get it so that it's not moving up and down as much. You have to be careful. The older registers, the shafts are steel. The newer registers, some of them are aluminum, and it's easy to break them off. So, and one other thing to check also is I know it's really hard to see, but the paper table has a slot in it. And especially in the older registers, a lot of times that drive wheel can move in and out. It just has a set screw, and it will get out of adjustment and rub against the sides of the slot. You want to try to get that drive wheel centered in that slot as best you can. That is really important on the older circle punch registers that have the real thin paper drive wheel on them. So I hope this helps you out on that. Try to get some other videos going here real soon, but until the next time, this is the Alarm Doctor saying the fastest, most reliable way to notify the fire department is a municipal fire alarm system. Take care. Merry Christmas.